So this is my car, and I ran over a nail or something on the inside bottom down here. When I came home the other day, I heard it hissing. It looks like it's within the inch of the sidewall. So we're going to do a plug. We're not going to do a patch plug, because technically by law you cannot fix a tire that has a hole within an inch of the sidewall. But let's just say that you're stuck somewhere and you need to fix your tire. That's what this is going to be a video about. Put a plug in it, fill it with air, get to where you need to go. But really, the right choice if you have a hole within the sidewall is to replace the tire, not to put a plug in it. But we're going to show you how to put a plug in it, because it is a really good skill to have when you're in the middle of nowhere and you just got to get to where you're going. So that's what this is about. So we're going to just use a jack with a jack stand, because I don't want to get the car jack out. Find somewhere really good underneath the car that is where the frame or suspension is. So where I have the jack is where the lower control arm mounts to the frame. All right, Mr. Larry, go ahead and jack this car up. We put a rock in front of the back tire because we are on a slope. And we put a rag on top of the jack stand so that way we don't damage my car. We only have to go enough. Go up a little more, Mr. Lear. We only have to go enough to get our jack stand underneath there. All right, and to take our tire off. And you want to give it a jounce, Mr. Lear?
Yeah. Just leave the jack under there along with it.
But don't ever go underneath the car without a jack stand. So we're going to take off my protective cap on here. A lot of people use air tools on these and they break them. They're just plastic. I can't tell you how many cars I've seen these little plastic caps, especially with GM cars, where they're just missing or broken. You know, they're just really fragile. I don't want to force anything on these. I should have broke these lug nuts with the car on the tire, but this is a front wheel drive car with the other wheel on the ground, so I should be able to break these free. And I'm just using the tool that came with the car. If these are really torqued, take the jack handle and put it on the end of this. So you just take that jack over there, the handle, take it off and stick it on the end, and then you can get more torque if you can't seem to break these free. So these are the type of lug nuts that are the lug nuts with the studs as part of them. I'm not a big fan of these because sometimes it's hard to line the holes up, but you'll see these off and on. The nice part is if you damage, there's no worry about damaging a stud, because if you damage the stud, which is part of the lug nut, you just throw it away. You can damage the threads, which is why I say I like studs better than that, because if you damage the threads, then you're changing the hub. So good time to look at my brakes. I haven't checked my brakes in a while, so I'm about 50% there, and just going by feel, yeah, I'm about 50% in here too, so about 20,000 miles on that, which is about right. Now let's see, here's the hole. You can see that right here. So legally 1 inch from the sidewall, and you could say, depending on the person, some people will be the sidewall, some people will be the start of the tread. I'm right at that 1 inch. I'm okay with putting a plug in it, and I'm probably, being that I'm the mechanic and also the owner, I'm gonna let it go. But no shop would ever repair this tire. They would not want the liability of it blowing out on the customer. So this would be a throwaway tire at any other shop.
I just want to go over what Mr. Fleming was telling you about the distance from the sidewall of the tire. And I like to measure right from the corner of the rubber right there. And if you take a look, we are within the 1 inch of where you cannot patch. And so we're just going to put the plug in here because we only need to get air in this tire to move his car so we can get it to a shop and put a new tire on. So a couple things about patches. When I was a kid, these plugs, which is like kind of, I'll show you how these work. It's kind of like sewing the tire almost. We're going to take this and jam it in there. And we used to be able to just use these to seal a hole up, and they were totally legal. But over time, we've developed a better technology for plugging holes and repairing tires. And so what we use today is called actually a patch plug. And this is installed from the inside. And you ream the hole big enough to fit this in there. And then you pull it through. And then this seals on the inside, and this fills in any damage to the rubber where the puncture wound is. And so, again, for the Department of Transportation, you have to use these for a tire that's going to go on the road. You cannot use these, but you could use these like for off-road vehicles. Let's say you got an ATV that you're taking off-road, and you get to flatten that thing. Or we use these a lot in golf cart tires because they only go 20 miles an hour. It's not a problem. But you would never put this on a tire that's going to go back on the road for normal use. Use this toolkit made by Matco. It's pretty cool. First thing we're going to do is we're going to ream out the hole, roughen it up on the inside, and then we're going to use, like I said, this is like a giant needle. We're going to feed one of these about halfway through here, jam it on the inside, pull this out. There's a little split in it here that allows the plug to stay in the tire so you don't pull it back out again. These things tend to break a lot. So it's kind of a nice kit that Mr. Fleming has from Matco. It comes with a bunch of extra tips on there because they do tend to break. And it comes with a set of plugs inside her.
Okay, since it's my tire, I'm gonna go ahead and do it. The one thing we also should mention, tires are balanced. They have wheel weights on them, okay? And sometimes both sides. If you use a plug, you really don't have to rebalance the tire, and you don't have to take the tire off the rim. So you could, in theory, you don't even have to remove the tire from the car. That's why this is a skill that's worth having on video, because when you're in the middle of nowhere, you really don't want to take the tire off. You don't have to. And you just get on your back, get the hole where you can get access to it. This is the reaming action. So you got to ream the tire, get it to the right diameter. Okay, I'm going to do that a couple more times. It's getting easier. All right, now we're ready to install the plug. This is where it's probably the cheap kits that you buy, and I think they're under 10 bucks at most stores. The cheap kits, this is the part where the tool breaks. And it breaks because you're spreading this tip, and I like to spread the tip a little bit with a screwdriver so I don't have to force it in there, and slide that down through. That's where this tip tends to break, especially with the cheap tip. All right, now you got to put glue in here, okay? Instead of using the brush, I'm just going to go ahead. I'm just going to dip this whole thing in there because you want it to be a little slippery when you put it in. And let's get that ready to go. It is hard to get it started. Okay, so a little twisting action. And all you got to do is get it where it punctures through, and then you're going to pull out. There we go. And we pull out. And that's it. Next thing we got is to cut it off and put it on the car. Rolling.
Okay, the next step is we want to cut this off as close as we can. These are a good pair of diagonal cutters that we could use. These are really neat. These are like nibblers. So I like these because you get a really close cut with this. Just cut that as flush as you can. If any of it's sticking out, it's just going to wear away as soon as we start driving anyway. And then the next thing I want to do is fill it up with air and make sure it's not leaking. I don't want to go through this whole process, put it back on the car, and then find out that I have to put a different, repair method on there. We'll just air it up to 32. I think that's the correct pressure for the car it's going on.
You can go, I like 40. Oh, it does say 40. No 44 is max pressure right there. I like to ride a 40.
Okay, so we're gonna check to make sure that there's no leak at this spot. And the funny thing is that our air hose has a little leak, and so we hear hissing noise and it makes me think there's a leak in the tire, but this will verify right here. If I don't see any bubbles with soapy water, I see nothing. We got it done. So we're ready to go back on. Rolling.
So a lot of kids don't have the strength to lift the tire up. This is what I always show them. Use their feet, get on your bottom, and then you could use your feet to rotate it. So, you know, doesn't matter how strong you are or how weak you are. It's all about, do you know how to use leverage to get it where you could manipulate things. And you think about it, your foot's very strong. And the other thing is, I'm not using my back. And tires, very easy to hurt your back, especially if you're dealing with a truck. So just kind of use your foot like a forklift. Since we're professional mechanics, I actually have power tools now. I'm not going to torque it though, because I don't have a torque stick. I'm just going to run them down till they're snug. Pull that jack stand out. Get underneath. Lower the car down slowly. I already have my torque wrench set to 90 foot-pounds. And it should be a nice steady pull below the fender so you don't scratch your fender. Okay. Too many students are torquing up here, and that would be my worry, is you scratch the fender. And this gives you the leverage you need. Already did that one. Okay. Gives you more leverage when you're pushing down. You put your weight on top. And I did a star pattern. The one thing I want to show you though, a lot of you won't be at school or have access to a jack, and you got to do it with the regular car jack. But if you don't have a lot of strength and you only have this one tool from the car, you're trying to torque it, you know, you could put a jack handle on here, push it down, or you could actually step on it, push down. It's all about leverage. But the professional way is to torque in a star pattern, use a torque wrench, and then zero out your torque wrench to keep it accurate. So you never want to leave that on the torque setting, because it will make the torque wrench become inaccurate. Start all these by hand. And I don't recommend using electric tools for this. Just snug. If you use the electric tool for this, you're going to snap them off, and it's just cosmetic. And then if you snap too many of these off, you'll get a rattle sound as the car starts to move, and then it becomes throwaway. And I just take this, just barely snug, just enough to, and you don't have to do these in a star pattern. I'm just doing it because I'm so trained to star pattern with our lug nut. Put all our tools back, flip sockets, torque wrench set to 0, put this back in the car, and we're done. So here's my spare tire compartment on my Saturn, and I'm showing you this because too many people take the jack out to do the spare tire, and they don't pay attention to how the jack remounts. And so you'll get complaints of rattling. And you know, my recommendation, before you ever take out the car jack or the tools, pay attention to how they are secured inside your tire compartment, because a lot of people just throw this into the side of the tire, and now it becomes a noise maker.